Hello, this is Josh with Synchronized Universe. I appreciate you coming back and listening. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about spiritual awakening and what that means to me, what I think it means for the world, etc. So, I was thinking a little while ago about, looking back through some photos, looking back through some old Facebook posts and cringing, definitely cringing. And I think about how differently I think now versus how I did, let's say, like just over 10 years ago. It's crazy. It's not just growing as a person, it's also growing spiritually. So what it means to have a spiritual awakening is to realize that they're essentially that we are part of the divine. It's waking up to realizing that there's so much going on outside of this material world that we live in, even though we have it drilled into our head that there's only material, there's only things that we can, process with our five senses, but science has proved over and over again that is false. I mean, not even that long ago, we didn't even believe that atoms existed. And now we know they definitely do exist. So if you were to take a microscope and, magnify our bodies all the way down to the atoms, what you would see is just pure energy. So essentially, we really are just pure energy moving around. That's why they talk about, how you can read someone's energy if you start to become sensitive. You start to awaken to the fact that we have these abilities built in. But the fact of the matter is you have to wake up to this fact first. You spend your whole life being indoctrinated by society and having them tell you, this kind of stuff doesn't exist, science this, science that. And so you don't believe it. And if you don't believe in something, you're not going to be able to experience it. And then, one day comes along, all of a sudden, say you have a near-death experience and you realize you're taken, through the tunnel of light, and you go to a different place. And then I know a lot of these people that have these near-death experiences have like an immediate spiritual awakening, and they realize there's so much more going on. So much more. It's actually mind-blowing. Like once you really start to go down this path, the things that you start to experience, like the things that I start to experience, it's just crazy. I can't even begin to explain it. Most people won't even believe it if I did say it. But, I'm going to try to explain it to the best of my knowledge. So the catalyst for me, I'm going to call it the catalyst for my spiritual awakening, was honestly when I fell into like a severe depression after my daughter died, and I went, down this absolute dark path for so long. And in order to get out of this dark path, I had to find the light. So how a lot of people end up finding or having a spiritual awakening is by literally facing their hell, facing their darkest moment in their life, and then coming out on the other side. I ended up getting on to drugs, unfortunately, and while I was on drugs, I read an absolute massive ton of books on conspiracy stuff, on spirituality, on ancient civilizations. I've watched just massive amounts of hours of stuff on every ancient civilization around the world. It's absolutely fascinating to me. And I started to realize that we know, like, what we're told is very little about what is actually going on. We're told that civilization started back in the Sumerian times, like roughly 5,000 BC or so. And once you start to look at these people's records, you realize that they had such an advanced knowledge of astronomy and all this stuff. And there's no explanation for how they got this. There's no explanation for how the pyramids were built. There's no explanation for how Stonehenge was built. We're just supposed to believe that primitive people were able to build these monuments. And I'm telling you that that is false. There's actually Sumerian clay tablets that have been found and deciphered, and their history goes back to like 443,000 years ago. There has been many, many ups and downs of civilizations. It is way more complicated than I have time to explain in this episode. I'm going to try to focus here on the spiritual side of this and what it means. You know, I'm not going to sit here, like some people sit here and try to say that the earth is 5,000 years old and, you know, God created everything in one day. You know, that's the other thing. The Bible is actually a collection and a condensed version of these Sumerian tablets. Most people don't know that. You can follow a guy called Forbidden Knowledge to learn about that, or a guy named David Wilcock, which is my favorite author. David Wilcock goes into the science behind spirituality pretty heavily, and like it's mind-blowing. I would definitely recommend it. So yeah, I was just looking back through my posts and looking how I viewed the world, and I viewed the world from a very angry point of view, from a world of, you know, how could there be a God that allows all this destruction and death? And it's not that God allows this. It's God is not what we think God is. God is the source of everything. And honestly speaking, through the many different theories and the stuff I've concluded that we are essentially a dream of God. Everything and everyone in this universe is God, experiencing itself. That, you know, pretty much ties together quite a few of the religious beliefs, like a lot of the Elon Musk, when he talks about how we live in a virtual reality, that explains that theory as well. It's because our world does function like a virtual reality. We do have the ability to control and manipulate our reality based on our habitual thought patterns, which I talked about in my Subconscious Mind podcast. Like once you start to, I'm telling you, once you start to really look into this and start to wake up, you realize that there is much, much more going on. We have so much more power than we have ever been led to believe. And, you know, I started seeking knowledge just for the sake of seeking knowledge, just so I know these things. You know, reading books like Fingerprints of the Gods and the Emerald Tablets of Thoth the Atlantean and the Bhagavad Gita, the Dead Sea Scrolls Bible. There's a book series called The Celestine Prophecy. Like, absolutely phenomenal books. And they teach you essentially a lot of the other books we're talking about, the Anunnaki and the Sumerian tablets, etc. Talking about the hidden origins of the pyramids. But the Celestine Prophecy is talking about, it's basically a guide. It's an adventure book, but it's a guide to spirituality. You follow these steps, and then you can, you know, have a much, much better life. And this is, I mean, it's all provable. You can prove this to yourself. You can prove that spirituality works. You really can. I mean, you could take shortcuts to spirituality. There's a drug called DMT. You really want to know if the other side exists, figure out where to get some DMT and smoke it. It literally catapults you into the spiritual world and you experience death. Like, there's no other way to explain it. That's what it is. And a ton of people do it and have the exact same experiences. Like, that's not a normal psychedelic. DMT actually exists inside of our brain, and it exists inside of our lungs. It is what is said to be the chemical that makes your dreams in your brain. And that's the other thing. Dreams become a lot more crazy once you're spiritually awakened. Like, modern science will tell you that dreams are nothing more than like a collection of memories being played, things that happen to you throughout the day, and that's just absolutely a load of hoopla. For some people, that may be the case, but for people who are very open-minded and very spiritual-minded, your dreams can be the key, a storehouse of knowledge that you would never expect. You can get answers to questions. You can get, be it they're cryptic. See, the dreams are never going to be, they're never going to give you a solid answer. They're going to give you a metaphorical answer, and that is because of the free will principle. Whoever is giving you these messages in your dreams, be it your higher self, be it God, be whatever it is, it can't just give you the answer. It's going to give you the answer in metaphorical form, or it's going to give you in a cryptic form. That's why the Bible's written the way it is. That's why most spiritual texts are written very metaphorically. It's because they can't just give you the answer. You got to take the time and do the research yourself. That's why it's dangerous just to live in the words of the Bible, because it's metaphorical. You're meant to research outside of it. You're meant to look into the stuff. That is the key. The key is seeking knowledge for the sake of seeking knowledge. And most people never get it past the materialism of our world, a materialistic worldview, because it's drilled into our head. We need to consume. We need more of this. We need more of that. It's crazy. It's crazy. And it's honestly kind of tough, because once you wake up to the fact that there's this much going on, this world is false. What we have, our society, the way we function, we're not supposed to live this way. In all honesty, the people that had it the correct way were the Native Americans. Living with the land, living in symbiotic relationships with nature. That's how we should be living. Not in this mass-produced false world we live in now. That's why those of us who are very spiritual-minded end up getting depressed a lot, because we know that this is not the way the world is supposed to be. We cannot continue existing this way in this world for very much longer. Something's got to give. And every spiritual text in the world is predicting that something is going to occur. Whether you believe that or not, you can look at the world right now and you can see it. It's happening all around us. Not to be all doom and gloom, but there's no doubt if we continue the way we're going to go over a cliff, and we're going to be facing an extinction event. For me, I'm not concerned with death. Once I experienced it using certain things that I was talking about a little bit ago, once I experienced, leaving my body during meditation, you don't no longer fear death, because death doesn't exist. It is just stepping out of one body and into another. And the next body we have is just like the ghost body. You can walk through walls, you can fly, you can, it's a whole different ball game. I promise you. Look up astral projection, and this can be proved. You can do this. Look up lucid dreaming. That's where you got to start with that. You start to lucid dream, where you can actually realize you're dreaming while in a dream and absolutely have godlike abilities. And then from there, you try to do it in a conscious waking state, and you can leave your body. There's literally hundreds and hundreds of documented scientific cases proving astral projection is real. And it's good to make a note that that ability alone defies all known laws of physics. Just remember that. There's all these documented cases of Tibetan monks doing this, yogis doing this, people being able to, read the contents of sealed envelopes, go inside of safes, go into somebody's house, get information that they could not have otherwise got. Look into the Edgar Cayce files, or Edgar Cayce readings, where he would diagnose patients thousands of miles away, appear to them, and, provide them freaking medical cures. There's thousands upon thousands of documented cases of this guy healing people. Look into all the healings over the world. Like, trust me, this information is so exciting. Like, you got to get out there and start researching this stuff instead of being stuck in this BS worldview that we have. You know, where the only answer is to take a pill for absolutely every freaking thing. Then they give you a pill to take, you know, for the side effects of this pill. That's not how we're supposed to be. The pharmaceutical industry has absolutely no interest in healing us. There is no money in cures. There's no money in curing cancer. You have to wake up to this fact. We are being manipulated. And once you wake up, it's impossible to be manipulated. I'm not talking about being woke, because woke is thinking that one side, you know, is corrupt. Being awake is realizing the entire system is corrupt. And we are being played against each other. The left versus right, all of this. They're playing us against each other. The people in control. They absolutely know how the mind works. They absolutely know what to say to trigger us. And you need to understand that. I promise you, start to go out and research this stuff. Do some homework. You know, read some books on ancient civilizations. Like, there is no other explanation for how these ancient ruins got here, other than there's more going on. Way, way more. I suggest reading some books by David Wilcock. Start with the Source Field Investigations. These are really big books, but if you ever want to know or understand the science behind spirituality, read this guy's books. And then another good one is The Law of One, but you can read David Wilcock's books. He references The Law of One quite a bit, and The Law of One's kind of hard to understand. But anyway, that's all the time we have for today. I appreciate you listening. Many, many blessings. Until the next time.